YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, along with YouTube at the Jaguar Journal. You can follow us on X and Instagram at the Jaguar Journal _ it, as well as on Facebook. Just type in the Jaguar Journal. Click on our link tree and all of our social media outlets in the description, and you'll be able to keep up with all the sports and news updates that we put out there. My man Mike does a great job chopping up interviews and putting them out there on our YouTube channel, so you can go back and get a chance to listen to, if it's not the entire show, you can watch and listen to those different segments. So, we'll have that today as well. When you're looking at my man, Coach Crenshaw, the head baseball coach at Southern University, want to thank him for coming on and talking with us this morning. And then my man, Dr. Kedrick Taylor, coming on and talking to us about the marching band who is getting ready to head out to Los Angeles, California to participate in the Honda Battle of the Bands. So that's going to be big to take this HBCU culture and take it out to the West Coast, and then open up some minds and some eyes and some ears of young people out there that may ultimately say, I want to go down south to go to Southern. That seemed like a great place. That's why I believe the marching band is such an influence that it is, that you can take it anywhere at any given time. And because of that unique sound, the power, and just the mesmerizing feel that band gives when they show up and put some air in those horns, you never know whose attention you're going to be able to grab and say, I want to go to Southern. And may not necessarily say just to be in the band, but I just want to go be near the band. I just want to go be a part of the culture. I see some majors that I like that Southern offers. I want to go experience that Louisiana culture. I just want to be down in Baton Rouge. And so that's the beauty of being able to go out into those new areas, specifically the West Coast. So I'm glad to be able to have them, have Dr. Taylor on to talk about that. All right, let's look back at some women's basketball, right? You guys ready? Southern University women's basketball. We had Grambling last week. Woo! Now, I must say, y'all did answer the call when I talked about us a little bit last week about how I went to the FAMU and the Bethune game, and y'all wasn't in it. Y'all wasn't in it. But let me tell you something. Last week, y'all was in it. Shout out to the fans. Y'all was in it. I have to give a shout out to the fans. But let's start on the women's side. Southern University women getting a much-needed victory over Grambling State, 59-53. Coach Carlos Funches and the Southern University women's basketball team shooting 23 of 59 in this ball game, shooting 39%, 5 of 12 from the three-point line, shooting 41%, and 8 of 14 from the free throw line, shooting 57%. 35 rebounds, 16 offensively, 19 defensively for Southern University women's basketball. 18 assists, 12 steals, and 18 total turnovers in that ball game. Able to get 8 points off of fast breaks and 32 points in the paint. Southern University women largest lead in that game was 12. Looking on the other side of the Tigers of Grambling State and their women's basketball team, shooting 20 of 52, shooting 38%. They were 1 of 18 from the three-point line. Tough day shooting for the three, shooting 12%, and 12 of 19 from the free throw line, shooting 63%. They had 32 rebounds, 8 assists, 4 blocks, 22 turnovers, 8 points off the fast breaks, 34 points in the paint. Both these teams was banging in the paint, and then their largest lead in the ball game was 4, up by 4. Southern able to get that victory, 59-53. Big victory. Listen, big victory for Southern women's basketball. That Grambling has seemed to be a little thorn in our side for quite some time. And shout out to Southern women getting it done. All right, now let's pump the brakes a little bit, right? Let's pump the brakes, and let's go all the way back to last Saturday, and let's look at some other games around the SWAC. How about Jackson State going on the road, getting a victory over Sandy Pugh, 67-48 over Prairie View. Jackson State rolled on. Bethune-Cookman women getting a much-needed victory, 67-49 over Mississippi Valley State. How about this one on the women's side, right? Coach Don Thornton, who is taking over the Alabama A&M program, coming over from UAPB, going against Alabama State. I like to call this the Magic City on the hardwood. What a game it was, 54-47 in a packed game over in Huntsville. And guess who showed up to that game? Coach Deion Sanders, Coach Prime. His daughter, of course, plays for Alabama A&M. He decided to show up, surprise her, and surprised many in the crowd as he showed up to watch Alabama A&M get a victory over their hated rival, Alabama State, on the women's side. Coach Dawn Thornton and Alabama A&M seem to be trending and headed in the right direction, 54-47. Of course, Southern, the Bayou Classic on the hardwood, getting it done on the women's side, 59-53. And then you look over at Texas Southern, who continues to roll. Right now, Texas Southern looks like the best team in women's basketball on the SWAC side, getting it done over Alcorn State, 70-48, and then Florida A&M getting it done over the Golden Lions of the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, 84-50 on a tough road game for UAPB, having to go all the way over to Tallahassee for that one. All right, then let's look at Thursday night, right? 2 games played Thursday. One was postponed, Bethune-Cookman versus Alcorn State. That game was postponed due, of course, to the weather here in the South, this region. That game was going to be played up at Alcorn State, but Grambling State getting the victory over the Golden Lions of Pine Bluff, 64-57 in a close one. And then Jackson State continues to roll on, 73-62 over Florida A&M. All right, let's look at some ball games on the women's side across the SWAC Conference today. Florida A&M will be going on the road, taking on Alcorn State just right up the road on Highway 61. Tip off at 1 o'clock. Both teams, this is going to be maybe an ugly game. I'm not going to put too much on it. Florida A&M and Alcorn State, I'm going to stay away from it. I'll just let them be. All right, tip off at 1 o'clock. Prairie View Women's going on to take on Alabama State. Alabama State will be the home team over in Montgomery, Alabama. Bethune-Cookman on the road going up to Jackson, Mississippi to take on the Tigers of Jackson State on the women's side. Texas Southern and Alabama A&M. This is a hell of a matchup today. I think if you want to circle a game to watch on the women's side today, this is one to watch. Texas Southern, of course, rocking and rolling. Alabama A&M rocking and rolling. Texas Southern handing out L's. Let's see if Alabama A&M at home can hold it down, and I'll get back to that game just a little bit more. How about Southern on the road going up to my neck of the woods, Pine Bluff, Arkansas? Southern University women taking on the Golden Lions of UAPB women's basketball. And then, of course, Grambling going up to Itta Bena, Mississippi to take on the Mississippi Valley Delta Devils. That game should be pretty interesting up in Itta Bena. All right, let's look at the SWAC Conference, right, on the women's side. And let's start at the bottom and work our way up to the top and giving you an update on where everybody stands. And at the bottom, today's opponent for the Jaguar, Southern University women, be taking on the UAPB Golden Lions women basketball team. They're at the bottom. They're 0-6 in conference play. If you want to find a team that has not won a game, right above them, Southern's opponent that's going to be Monday on the women's side, Mississippi Valley, 1-5 in conference play. Alcorn, 1-4 in conference play. Then you have Prairie View and Sandy Pugh, excuse me, 2-4 in conference play. Alabama State sitting there at 2-3 in conference play. And now you start to find those teams getting right at 500 or above 500 in conference play. You have Florida A&M, the Rattlers on the women's side, along with Grambling, both sitting there tied at 3-3, 2.5 games out of first place. Right above Grambling and FAMU, Bethune-Cookman sitting there at 3-2 in conference play, 2 games out of first place. Then you have 2 teams lined up all right there in that third place spot, which is Southern and Alabama A&M, both at 4-1 in conference place. They're both a game out of first place. And then Jackson State, half a game out of first place, sitting there at 5-1. And then Texas Southern at the very top, looking at 5-0 in conference play. Today's ball game versus Alabama A&M is going to be big when you look at Texas Southern. They have been reeling off victories, looking at starting conference play, an 85-74 victory over Grambling State. Grambling was a favorite coming into this season. They're kind of taking a seat back, and Texas Southern is kind of taking over. You look at Texas Southern. Southern was up by at least 10 points and kind of let that lead squander away over on the road in Houston, Texas, as Texas Southern found a way to beat the Jaguars on the women's side, 55-51. Then Texas Southern continued to roll on. They got a victory 80-54 over Mississippi Valley State. And then in a big one that I thought was a key victory, 69-54 over Jackson State. So far, they've handed Southern and Jackson State their only losses in conference play. And they rolled on to whoop up on Alcorn State last week, 70-48. And then the game against Alabama State is going to be big. I like that matchup. I just think in Alabama A&M, of course, Alabama State, they're going to take on Monday, the game today against Alabama A&M. I like that matchup when you look at these two teams. Now let's look at Alabama A&M on the other side, right? Coming into the season, they got a victory over Mississippi Valley, at 89-53 victory. They moved on because Coach Don Thornton took over Alabama A&M, of course, leaving Pine Bluff. She had took UAPB 2 years ago to their very first SWAC championship game appearance, in which they played Southern. Southern was able to get the victory, but what she did for that women's basketball program at UAPB was pretty amazing. Took them, and then guess what? Taking on her old team this year, 66-52. The Bulldogs able to get it done over Coach Don Thornton's former team, the Golden Lions of UAPB. Then a tough one against Jackson State, right? 65-55 loss to Jackson State. Jackson rolled on. And then you look at, they were able to get it done 66-56 over Alcorn State, and a 54-47 victory over Alabama State last week, which that was huge for them to get that done. All right, then we look at Monday, right? Monday, you're going to have some matchups across the SWAC. Bethune-Cookman on the road at Alcorn State. Texas Southern is going to be on the road at Alabama State. Of course, what I mentioned before, Southern on the road taking on Mississippi Valley State. And then to wrap things up on Monday, Prairie View and Sandy Pugh headed over to take on Alabama A&M and Coach Don Thornton. Right now, are you surprised with women's basketball and where it stands? And you look at Southern University sitting there in the thick of things. I'm trying to see how they're going to get it done. They should pick up 2 victories this week. Both Pine Bluff and Mississippi Valley are at the very bottom of the conference. Pine Bluff winless on the women's side. Mississippi Valley with 1 win on the women's side. So you're looking at both teams combined. 1 win in conference play between 2 teams should be pretty good, but you can't overlook an opponent, especially on a road trip. I know practice was affected this week because of the recent snowstorms here in Baton Rouge. So shout out to Coach Carlos Funches, him and that Southern University women's basketball team. They continue to find ways to get it done, and hopefully they can go get it done on that road trip. Those Pine Bluff and Itabena road trips it's nothing out there. It's forgotten land. It's what we call God's country, right? A lot of times you forget, man, this is really what the country looked like. You know, you see just fields upon fields. So those rides can be tough, but hopefully Coach Funches and his team get up there and get it done, taking on Pine Bluff today and Mississippi Valley on Monday. Big game, I said, on the women's side to pay attention to. Texas Southern versus Alabama A&M today. If you have not got a chance to, make sure you watch both those programs. And along if this streaming, I have to check with my people up in Pine Bluff to see if the games will be streamed behind a paywall or if it'll be open today. So let's get ready to take a break. I'll come back in on the side. We'll look at Southern University men's basketball and take a look around the SWAC, all right? So let's jump over into the men's side of things. Men's basketball in the SWAC, right? Last Saturday, we jumped back to it. Southern University took on Grambling. Listen, I must say, that was, for me, perhaps the best Southern home game atmosphere. Now, I've seen some atmospheres, right? I remember one year we played Jackson in the quarterfinal when they were hosting the quarterfinal at home before you went off into the tournament. That was a pretty electric atmosphere. But that last 13 seconds of this Southern Grambling State game, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. You can't ask for better. It was college basketball at its finest when you're talking about rivals. Oh, man, phenomenal. And I'll break it down for you guys. Let's talk about the game first. Southern getting the victory, 67-60, and it ain't even what you think. It ain't even what you think when you look at that final score. As this game rolled on, the Jaguars in this one shooting 24 of 55 for 43%, 5 of 18 from the three-point line, shooting 27%, and 14 of 22 from the free throw line, 63% in this ball game. I want to see Southern do better at the free throw line. Simple as that. Simple as that. Southern has to do better from the free throw line. 33 rebounds in this ball game, 13 assists, 8 steals, 7 blocks, 15 total turnovers, 7 points off of fast breaks, 38 points in the paint for the Jaguars as they was banging. 12-point lead was the largest lead in this ball game. On the other side for the Tigers of Grambling, struggled early on but found themselves back into this ball game and made it a burn burner, as they say. 19-49 shooting this one for 38%. 4-15 from the three-point line, shooting 26%, and 18 of 21 from the free throw line, shooting 85%. They was taking advantage of those free points when they had opportunities. 31 rebounds in this ball game, 23 defensively, 8 offensively, 8 assists, 10 steals, 3 blocks, 16 total turnovers in this ball game. Grambling was able to get 17 points off of those turnovers, 5 fast break points, 22 points in the paint, and their largest lead in the ball game was 7 points. But how about this? 3 technical fouls in this ball game. Let's rewind it back and let's look at it. Southern's up pretty much the vast majority of this game. It looks like Southern has this thing. Yeah, we're going to walk away with it. Grambling mid-second half just begins to knock down the shots as Southern goes cold. Free throws were the name of the game for Grambling. That really helped them. Knocking down clutch shots. The momentum started to swing. The pendulum went in their direction, and before you know it, with 13 seconds left, Grambling sets up for a three-pointer, and they knock it down, tying this ball game at 60. Hearts dropped. Cigarettes were pulled out. We're about 13 seconds from having to light one up in the mini dome because it was like, no way Grambling walks away with a victory after just a hell of a game, a hell of a performance for Southern. It's no way we're going to let Grambling come in and steal this one from us. Just no way. And guess what? Southern gets the ball, inbounded, takes it down, and at about 0.8 seconds left in the game, goes up for a layup. And you know what the ref does? Blows the whistle and calls foul, and all hell broke loose on the Grambling bench. Grambling coach gets in the face of the official. They team up. He continues to go. Guess what? He gets ejected out of the game. And when I say the crowd let him feel it, when the crowd was there, they really let him feel it. Now, okay, once we get the coach out the way, the Grambling bench at this point just complete disarray. Don't know what to do. They're still feeling that animosity. It's a rivalry game, must I say. Southern and Grambling, as much as it's a family affair, do not like each other when they have to see each other. A lot of pride on the line from South Louisiana to North Louisiana. So now the assistant coach is going crazy. It's another tech. We got 2 technical fouls with 0.8 seconds left in the game on top of the foul that was called a shooting foul. Now you got the players from Grambling getting frustrated, ready to go back and forth. And what I liked about Coach Johnson, the way he was able to keep his composure and the team's composure in what it seems a moment of chaos. Because that 0.8 seconds to finish that took about 15 minutes, having to clear everything out, having to just get order restored. It was the true definition of rivalry. It was the true definition of the home crowd affecting the teams and making themselves known in that ball game. The crowd was in it, and I just was like, gosh, I can understand, Coach, you get mad. You will want the ref to allow things to play itself out. But with 0.8 seconds left, a foul is a foul. You have to do your job into the buzzer. So because of that, man, hell of a finish. And let me tell you something. Dr. Travian Scott, the athletic director up there at Grambling, he tried, y'all get y'all, well, I can't say a lot of cuss words. Y'all get y'all butt to that locker room as soon as possible. Well, listen, he was trying to get Grambling coaches and players off that court as quick as possible. Southern gets the victory 67-60, one of the best environments, I think, under 13 seconds. Everybody was sitting down for the most part, but that last 13 seconds, I'll take it. All right, I'll take that last 13 seconds. We had a caller calling in. Hey, caller, be sure to give me a call back here. I'm sorry I was in my storytelling mood, but you could definitely call back. You know, that I had to tell a story because, man, what a phenomenal game. Southern and Grambling last week. The Jaguars able to pull it off. Let's look at some other games around the SWAC on last Saturday besides all that hoopla I'm talking about. Jackson State getting the victory 79-70 over Prairie View. How about Bethune-Cookman continue to find their winning way once again, 83-58 over Mississippi Valley State. Alabama State getting a victory over Alabama A&M 69-65. Florida A&M over UAPB 86-76, and Texas Southern 66-57 on the men's side. Then Monday, of course, Southern did not have a game due to playing Grambling. Alcorn State getting an 8-point victory over Prairie View 78-70. Texas Southern 81-73 over Jackson State. Florida A&M 83. Mississippi Valley State 83. And then Bethune-Cookman rolls on once again. Coach Reggie Theus and that Bethune-Cookman team 73-64 over UAPB. I don't think if you have not caught on yet, I like Reggie Theus and that Bethune-Cookman team. Although they lost to Southern, they have a pretty good ball club. I just must admit. Let's talk about the SWAC conference standing. And once again, to that caller who was calling in, definitely call back, man. I was just in the middle of a story that I had to talk about. But let's look at the SWAC standings. Southern men's basketball will take on two teams who have yet to win a conference game so far this season. They have UAPB today, Mississippi Valley on Monday. UAPB and Valley both winless. Valley 0-6 in conference play. The Golden Lions 0-5. I don't know how much longer UAPB is going to keep Coach Bozeman up there. I mean, this is not what I think they wanted when they brought him in. They're 3-15 on the season and 0-5 in conference play. You know, I always bring up UAPB because it's my neck of the woods and my mom's alma mater, but unacceptable right there. 3-15, 0-5 as we're getting ready to head into February. Unacceptable with a record. Grambling, how about them? Underachieving, 1-4 in conference play. They're 4-14 on the season, man. It's just, if it just couldn't get any lower, it just continues to be low for Grambling after that loss. And I know it really was effective and hurt last Saturday. Looking at Florida A&M and Alabama A&M on the men's side, both sitting there at 2-3 in conference play. Now let's talk about the teams 500 and above. Prairie View sitting there at 3-3 in conference play. Alcorn State along with Alabama State both tied up at 3-2 in conference play. Then you have three teams all sitting there in second place. Texas Southern, Bethune-Cookman, and Jackson State all at 4-1. Keep in mind, Southern, who is at the top, 5-0 in conference play, 10-8. They are the only team, the Jaguars are the only team in the conference with a winning record with their overall record. The next closest teams are Texas Southern, Bethune-Cookman, and Alabama State, who are all 7-11 on the season. Of course, Southern 10-8 on the season. Big road victories against Louisiana Tech and Tulsa in non-conference play. 5-0 in conference play. Coach Kevin Johnson has something really going. His team coming off the bench and bench scoring #1 in the nation. He rotates. He keeps fresh legs. It's amazing to watch how he rotates this team, even dealing with injuries of some key players. Key players missing. Giving Texas Southern and Bethune-Cookman their only losses on the season. And then with UAPB and Valley with no wins on the season. It's going to be interesting as they head up to Pine Bluff and Valley. Mike, we got a caller there. We're going to put him on hold after get ready to take a break. But he hung up. Call back again, caller. I see you on there. Call back again. But the Jaguars right now look good. I almost made us need a cigarette and a shot last week against Grambling, but I expected that. Grambling has just had our number. Bethune-Cookman had our number. But I know that we are headed in the right direction by the way that we were able to get a victory over two teams who have traditionally had our number over the past couple seasons. And it's some good basketball to watch, entertaining. So shout out to Coach Kevin Johnson. I just want to see, for me, Southern has to do better shooting free throws. Just have to. I am not liking what I see from the free throws. Other games around the SWAC real quick today. Prairie View taking on Alabama State. Florida A&M taking on Alcorn State. Bethune-Cookman and Jackson State today should be a good one right there. Should be a really good one right there. That game is going to be at Jackson State. Texas Southern taking on Alabama A&M. And then Grambling taking on Mississippi Valley. On Monday, you're going to have Prairie View taking on Alabama A&M. Bethune-Cookman taking on Alcorn State. Grambling to be on the road up at Pine Bluff taking on UAPB. Florida A&M and Jackson State will be going back and forward. Texas Southern on the road at Alabama State. And, of course, Southern to round things out at Mississippi Valley. Of course, Southern's women's game, who was scheduled for Thursday because of the weather, inclement weather, has been moved. It's going to be on Monday on the road at Mississippi Valley. Of course, in the SWAC, they do the Thursday games on the women's side, but Southern's game will be right before the men's game on Monday at Mississippi Valley.